Arise, giving all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe. Allah is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I extend high honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. Islam? I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I extend high honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that European nations owe you the Moors with compound interest. I also extend honors, high honors, to the first Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Moorish Science Temple of America, of the Supreme Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother Ranesi-El, giving high honors to our current Supreme Grand Sheikh of the Supreme Grand Council of the Uniting the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother R. Edwards-El, giving honors to all past Grand Sheikhs, all past Grand Governors, and all present Grand Sheikhs and Grand Governors of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And last but not least, I give honors to you, the Ils and Bays, for without you there is no Moorish movement. Islam? Islam. How's everyone on the holy day? All's well. Praise Allah indeed. It is truly an honor to be in front of you once again on the holy day. It's an honor to stand in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Praise Allah for the Moorish Science Temple of America, because where would we be without the Prophet's lessons? Islam? Has anyone ever thought about that? Where would you be at if you didn't have the Prophet? Islam? I think that's a thought that we need to really settle into, based on the fact that next Friday is our Prophet's birthright. Islam? So, in this next creation, these next 7 days coming up, we need to be very reflective about our Prophet. And what he brought and what he gave to us and how he helped us unfold into who we are at this moment. Islam? I heard somebody ask the question about the future. I think I know where that came from, right? But we're not talking about the future, but we're talking about in the present moment, where the Prophet has you right now, through Allah, where Allah has you right now, right? Through his holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam? All right? But tonight what I wanted to demonstrate from is a topic, which is a house divided against itself cannot stand. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Islam? To qualify my topic, I want to draw from Moorish literature, page 8, which is the article entitled, "The Voice of the Prophet." Let me hear Islam when you're there.
Islam.
Praise Allah.
Islam.
Islam. And as the front of this record reads, Moorish literature, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, founder Noble Drew Ali, the prophet and founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America, to redeem the people from their sinful ways. The voice of the prophet. Our prophet says, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have the power to redeem your race, because you will know who you are and your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is a field open to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish National Divine Movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. This is what was meant when it said, quote, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things would be added unto you, unquote, by the prophet. Islam? Now, when the prophet says, needs every one of you to think that your condition can be better, what condition is he referring to? Say it louder.
The Negro condition.
Right, which is in the actual article, the Negro problem he refers to it as. See, if you study international law, which I know some of you study a little bit of law, right? If you study international law, you'll find out that various different nations find themselves in a position where they're not, in their golden era as a nation, right? So they might find themselves where they're being persecuted by other nations, right? So as an example, there was a period of time when the Ottoman Empire was oppressing a group of people known as the Armenians, right? And in the Ottoman Empire, they wanted everybody to defer to or adopt Turkish nationality. Islam? The Armenians said, no, we're not Turkish, we're Armenian. So they wouldn't proclaim their nationality as an Ottoman because they received benefits from being a part of the Ottoman Empire, but wouldn't proclaim Turkish nationality, right? As a result, the Turks found themselves as, let's see what the Turks did. And I'm gonna show you this as a general rule. Go to your first page, page 5 actually, in Moorish literature. I'm gonna show you that this is not something that just happened to our people. This is a general rule that happens to people that don't proclaim their nationality, right? Where it says editorial, a divine warning by the prophet for the nations. It says the citizen, let me hear Islam when you're there. Islam. All right. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. Islam? In the Armenian circumstance, because they were without the body of power, they were clinging to names and principles that deluded to slavery. Islam, because their particular ideal could not free them. They had to proclaim, that the nationality of those people that were running the government. Islam? Right. Now, if you don't like that condition, you go start your own government. Islam? That's an example. An example like this. In the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have rules. Islam? So you can't come inside the temple gates of the Moorish Science Temple of America and do what you want to do. That's not what this is. Islam? If you come through and say you want to become a member, not sympathizer. If you're a sympathizer, you come and welcome, you sit, learn, and we understand, and that's why we offer that caveat at the end when we do the prayer, even the beginning, oftentimes. When we ask the members to stand on their square and raise 5 on the left, 2 on the right, but we say for our visitors, please adopt a position of prayer that is comfortable for you. Islam? Because they are not members, thus they are not bound by our laws. Islam? But once they become members, they are bound by our laws, right? Now, once you take on the laws, what the prophet refers to as the holy and divine laws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? You must then begin to reform your ways to become in alignment with what the prophet is asking of you. Islam? But you must have a clear conception of that work that you're called to do. If not, you'll find yourself in violation. Islam? Right? This is what we mean by a house divided against itself cannot stand. Islam? All right? We find ourselves in a position as a nation of people because be clear that October, write this date down for those taking notes. October 17th, 1928, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali declared that we, Moorish Americans, are indeed a nation within a nation. Right? October 17th, 1928. The following day, October 18th, 1928, he presented our nation to the world by hosting a Moorish parade in the city of Chicago, which there were camels and Moorish Americans dressed in the various different garbs of our forefathers and the flags hoisted, and everything was a beautiful sight to behold, and it was covered by news agencies all over the country, and it went out through the world, right? So the prophet, when he proclaimed us as a nation, right, the nations of the earth recognized us because it's like, okay, the Moors have returned. We have since the prophet's passing dropped the ball. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that. The first step to changing behavior is admitting the problem. We can't work around the problem. We have to admit the problem. Islam? And the problem is us wanting to do our own thing with what the prophet brought. That will not do. Islam? Anyone ever read the prophet's laws? Raise your hand if you've read the prophet's laws. Has anyone ever heard this phrase before? The prophet would positively not tolerate any interference from this divine movement from anyone. Does that sound like he was playing games with his laws? And if you know anything about him astrologically, he was a Capricorn. If you know anything about Capricorns, they don't play. Period. Islam? Capricorn is about establishing boundaries, right? And that's the problem with our people. We don't have boundaries. We want to do whatever we want to do, whenever we want to do. All right? And wonder why we're sick. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Yes, we're economically sick because we'll buy some $200 Jordans, but if somebody offered you, said, well, why don't you just take and put some money up so you can buy some Bitcoin? Oh, I ain't buying no imaginary cryptocurrency. But you'll go buy some Jordans that hold no value. Islam wars? All right? So again, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So when you come into the prophet's temple that he established, right? The things that he put in place in terms of laws was to change and address our condition. The prophet knew that we were arrogant. The prophet knew that we were vain. The prophet knew that we were inconsistent. Why he gives you a chapter called what? Inconstancy, which is the old version of the word inconsistent. He knew we were unstable. So he gives you a chapter called what? Instability of man. Islam? He knew we were weak. Islam? Yes. You know the weakest guy or female that exists in our society? Or the tough person? Person act hard all the time. Just mean mugging all the time. Just, what's going on, brother? Yeah, what's going on? He don't look like that when he hugs his mama, though. Or when he's holding a baby, because you can't hold a baby looking like that. See how foolish it is, right? But see, the prophet knew he was weak because the European psychology taught you that's what it meant to be a man or a woman. Islam? That's why we in the hospitals with high blood pressure and stress. Jokers just fall out and die at 40, at 30. Islam? Because we were given the wrong image of what it was to be something. Islam? Prophet teaches us about a science of happiness. He lets you know that it's okay to be happy, right? But then he says, know that to be content is to be happy, right? Not saying I'll be happy when I get that Phantom, because you can get it and still not be happy. There's people that own them and still ain't happy. Islam? So that's why, because it's what? It's measured up by what? Time. Islam. All right? He tells you in all the world there are two things. What are they?
Truth and falsehood.
Y'all covered a lot about truth tonight. Real quick, this might not have nothing to do with much, but anybody see that new Wonder Woman movie? Yes, the Grand Governor watched the Wonder Woman movie. It was hot too. If you don't know, you missed out. But the main theme in the movie is truth. They're talking about truth, and they're talking about desire. Well, no, part 7, the wish, right? The wish. They said the sin is in the prophet said the sin is in the wish, right? But in there they're dealing with the wish, because the wish is dealing with you wishing for things. You're not wishing for truth. You're wishing for things that are measured up by time, and that wish was causing people grief, so on and so forth, right? Because again, them writing these movies, they're taking your ancient manuscripts and studying that stuff and writing scripts to entertain you, but it's not really not for entertainment. They're seeing who knows what, right? And the masses be like, oh, that was a good movie, and miss. They don't spend $30 million just for it to be a good movie. Anybody ever seen the movie Inception? Y'all remember Inception? Y'all think they put that together to entertain anybody? Or show you that there's depths within depths within depths within depths within the heart and mind? Islam? Because it's not just the mind, heart and mind are connected. Prophet said, keep your heart and mind pure with, and your body clean with Islam. So they're connected. Islam? So, relative to the unity aspect, of not working against yourself, go to chapter 45 real quick. When you're standing on your square, you're standing on how many degrees? 45. You're 45. So go to chapter 45 and see what it says. If you didn't know, that's how the prophet works. You got to know how to cross-reference this thing. All right? Whoever gets there first, what's the title of chapter 45?
The divine origin of the Asiatic nations.
Did it say the national origin of the Asiatic nations?
Divine.
The divine origin of the Asiatic nations, right? Chapter 45. And he puts you on your 45 when you go to pray. And 4 plus 5 is? 9 represents what? Say it again louder. Completion. Islam? So if you want to complete yourself, you got to stand on your 45. Wow. Islam? Anybody ever really looked at the divine constitution and bylaws? The prophet standing on his 45, but underneath the words Noble Drew Ali, what's there? What words are those? The Moorish American what? Prayer. So the prophet is standing, his foundation is what? The prayer. Islam? All right? And, you know, our people, you know, we got too good to pray. Day by day, y'all are becoming Europeans. I'm going to say that again, because I don't think you heard it. Day by day, you all are becoming Europeans. Tell me who you are. Tell me what, rhetorical. Tell me what you worship. Y'all on it now. Y'all locked and loaded. I appreciate that. But tell me what you worship. Islam? Allah. Tell me, rhetorical. No answer needed. I told you locked and loaded. Y'all busting shots. This ain't last night. Islam, huh? Speaking of which, my daughter's car window was blown out last night by a bullet that came down. She wasn't in it. Praise Allah, right? You see? But see, you worship holidays that deal with violence. What people creates that? That's not a divine origin of an Asiatic nation. Got fireworks going on. It looks pretty in the sky, but what does the firework represent? War. Because you got it from a warlike people. But you worship in this manner. Islam? A worthy study would be to see how every year how many people are injured or killed by those bullets that come down. Because there's a thing called gravity. If you shoot it up, it got to come down. Those things hit children, and you name it. Islam? We worship it. We worship, and again, respectful, but truth is, it is what it is. We worship under the guise of the Christmas tree, which seems harmful. But in order to get the gift, you got to bow down before the tree. You got to bow down before the Christian principles. What am I saying? Because Christian in the ancient world meant European. Right? So why the prophet, when he came back and gave us our divine creed back, he was straightening out your status from an ancient world perspective. Islam? Because in the ancient world, Muslim meant who? Go to chapter 45 and read the title. The Asiatic nations, those were Muslims. Christian meant European. And if you don't believe me, right, research the doctrine of discovery. Write it down. I'm not a preacher. The doctrine of discovery, and research those particular doctrines or documents. And they'll tell you that the Pope of Rome, right, his whole thing was to get his kings and queens. They want to snatch everything from the Moors, right? And here we are in 2021, according to this calendar, still worshiping under the Roman and European ideals. Still, right? But let's go to instruction 1. The divine origin of the Asiatic nations, chapter 45. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation. Let's stop there. The fallen, past tense. Fallen, can we get a bottle of water? Oh, you got one, okay. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans. Then there's a comma, and then it says, etc. Islam? Are these lessons just for you? But you got to master them before you go teach anybody else. How you going to teach somebody something and you ain't mastered it yet? That's why we say when you first get to the simple, be quiet for about a year. Don't try to teach nobody because you don't know what you're talking about. What you're going to do is cause confusion. Islam? Like we have a thing like Act 1 gives us our protocol, our chain of command. The Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America some power to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body, the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Chain of command, meaning that if I want a particular thing done as a member, right, I run it through the chain. That's why the chain is there, because we come from a world where there was no chain, right? We did what we wanted to, and we seemed out of order in a place where there were rules and a chain of command, right? Can anybody right now take a message to the President of the United States yourself?
No.
Why not? What? You should, right? You're a citizen. Oh, there's a system in place.
Yes.
Right? And what does that system entail? Right? What are your first three articles of the U.S. Constitution? First one is what? Which branch of government? I know I'm talking to citizens, especially the prophets more. Y'all need to know this. First article, U.S. Constitution, deals with what branch of government? Legislative. Second branch deals with what? No. Executive. Third is judicial. Which one is the longest? Say again? Legislative. Why is the legislative branch the longest when you read it? They have more powers because it is their job to make laws. Islam? So things have to be run through that particular body, of which there are how many houses? In the legislative branch of government. How many houses are there? Two. What are the names? Two. Name them. Sound familiar, Sunday school attendees? Two. Name them. Okay, or Senate and what else? House of Representatives. Islam? So if you master Moorish Science Temple of America, because in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we make and enforce laws as well. We have a judicial body as well. It's called the Supreme Grand Council. I was just on a Supreme Grand Council call Sunday. That's why I wasn't able to be in attendance. If I'm not here, I'm either sick or on national business. Islam? So what is the legislative body in the Moorish Science Temple of America called? Go to Act 1. It's in there. Legislative. Okay, so let's take it. Who makes and enforces laws?
The Grand Chairman.
Y'all hitting a lot of right answers from different sides. Y'all naming the side of Allah that you see. So you were right insofar as the legislative body is called Grand Body. You were right insofar as the Grand Sheikh and Chairman, all right, which is one person. The chairman can be delegated out because that's a lot on one person, so it's usually delegated out. And each temple has its own customs. So you might see it as one person in some temples and two people in another temple, all right? And somebody says Supreme Grand Sheikh, right? But that's of the Supreme Grand Council. Anytime you hear supreme anything, that's dealing with the Supreme Grand Council. If you hear grand anything, that's dealing with the Grand Body. Islam, different functions. The Supreme Grand Council deals with the interpretation of the law. All right, so that's our Supreme Court of sorts. All right, but they also we also as Supreme Grand Council members deal with the daily operation of the Moorish Science Temple of America when the Grand Body is not in session. Right, and when is the Grand Body in session as a group? During what period? Say again? The annual convention, right? Which in this body is September 15th through 20th. Islam? Why am I going through all this? I'm going through all this to show that what a united house looks like, right? And I'm here to tell you it's not easy because we are ex-Negroes, right? So when you get us together to attempt to be what the Prophet was molding us to be, you got to work through that mess that's in us. Prophet said it's hard because of your mixture. We're strangely mixed. Somebody said strangely mixed with, I think it was you. That was your demonstration. No, it was right though. In perspective, because we're truth and falsehood strangely mixed. Islam? So we're used to dealing with things that make our body feel good, like our ego. Things that make our ego feel good, we like that. See what I'm saying? But that's measured up by time. Because there was a time when you didn't have an ego. Right? You know, spirit planes when you're dealing with Allah and man being one. If Allah and man are one, at that point, there is no I. You didn't know nothing about I feel, or I think, or I believe. None of that type of stuff. Islam? So the first uniting is the uniting in your own self. Islam? All right? The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation need to learn to love instead of hate and know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key, what is a key used for? But more specifically, how do you open the door? Unlock, right? So clearly there's some locks on our minds, right? So we unofficially call the 101 questions 101 what? Keys, right? Because the most dangerous thing in the world is a question. Islam? What's the root of the word question?
Quest.
Which means what?
Seeking.
Or what? If you're on a quest, you're on a journey. Islam? So when you ask somebody, we like to take that away from children because we don't have the patience for it. Children ask a million questions a day. Well, why this? Why this? Well, you got to do such and such. Why, mommy? Why I got to do that? Because I said so. That's not an answer. That's for your ego. Islam? But you answering their questions help them on their quest or their journey. Islam? It says the key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. Islam? And I'm going to stop there. You can read the remainder on your own time. All right? But when we're talking about, as a Moorish American Muslim, when we're talking about the Quran of Mecca, right? So right here it says what? It says that verse 1, this is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Anybody ever studied a nationality card? I do hereby declare that you are a what? Under the divine laws of what? Y'all like deer in the headlights. Y'all like, nope. You close, Mo. I'm trying to get that exact wording. Prophet said every word I speak is spirit. I need that spirit. I do hereby declare you are a Muslim under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now go to the end of instruction 1 in chapter 45 and make that make sense to me. Square that up with what the prophet's talking about on the nationality card and what real Quran he's talking about. What is it, sis? You said, oh yeah. What is it?
Beginning from Muhammad, the founder of the uniting of Islam. By the command of the great universal God Allah.
Okay. So if we go, let's do it this way. See where it says at the end of 1, this is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca?
Oh, right.
Right before that it says, and to know of their higher self and lower self. Because that's the subject matter. And then he says, this, right, pointing back to the previous statement, is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca, right? So the knowing of your higher, not just your higher self, right, but your higher and your lower self. That is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. But then he says, I do hereby declare that you are a Muslim, because once you know both, you know how to employ them, right? In that state now you are a Muslim, not under the national laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca, but the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca. Right? Then he says, love, truth. What does he say? Which is reflected on our flag by a green star. And green doesn't represent life or death. Life. That's Islam. So if you live in these principles, you start to see yourself being more lively. Right? Many of you new ones who are here, right? It's for me, I have the best seat in the house when I'm up here. Because I get a chance to see all your faces at one time. I can pan to see everyone. And for those of you that have been on this little journey from the time that you've been here, I see the evolution taking place in you. I see your eyes brightening up. I see complexions getting brighter. I see spirits getting lighter. Islam. I see ones wearing all white with turbans on, crescent pins and feathers. And Islam. I'm seeing a uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca. I'm saying of your uniting of your higher and lower selves. The process is taking place, but see, you are not going to see it in and of yourself. Somebody has to hold up the mirror. Islam, all right? So that's another aspect of uniting a house. The last aspect I want to demonstrate, because it's getting late, is the uniting of the household. Islam, because we can't keep our house divided and think our nation is going to thrive, right? Anybody ever heard of the prophet Ezra?
Yes.
What was the prophet Ezra known for? And what time did he come? The prophet Ezra came during the period of time after the Babylonian exile, when the Israelites were taken captive, where you pick up in the book of Daniel, first chapter, and they were carried off. The very best of the Israelites were carried off and enslaved, right? What did the Babylonians do to the Israelites? Did they let them keep their holy names? Let's do this. Y'all know that story about Daniel's 3 companions that were thrown in the fire? What were their names? Shadrach.
Meshach, and Abednego.
But was that their names? No, that's what the Babylonians called them. Hananiah, there's like 2 other names, pardon yourself. But those Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, those are Babylonian names. But they were Israelite, not Babylonian. Sound familiar? Does that condition sound familiar? Rhetorically, don't answer. What name were you born with? Were you born with a Moorish name?
No.
Okay, I said rhetorical. See, the Constitution says you can't be called as a witness against yourself, right? But the whole thing is like, you weren't born with your forefathers' names. The very best of you were enslaved. The book of Daniel goes through and explains your condition. Now, go to Daniel chapter 1 and read that and tell me you don't see you, all right? But anyway, Ezra comes in a period of time after the Babylonians were freed out of that captivity, right? Brought back to Israel and were put in a better situation by the Persians, all right? Namely 2 rulers, Cyrus and Darius, all right? Who helped them rebuild the temple, okay? Now what happens is, Because they lived amongst the Babylonians for so long, they picked up the Babylonian customs. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? They worshiped everything the Babylonians did, including marrying Babylonian wives. The women married Babylonian husbands. They put up Babylonian altars in their homes. Sound familiar? All right. So go to Ezra chapter 9 for those of you want to look at it, follow me on Google. If not, just listen. All right. Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. It says, now, when these things were completed, the elders came to me saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands. Let me pause right there. There's a comma. There's more. Have not separated themselves from the peoples of the lands. See, there's a thing known as being in the world, but not of it. Okay? You can be out here just like everybody else, but you don't have to do what they do. Islam? You know, sisters, you can be out here doing business, going to work every day, whatever, but you can cover your body. Islam? Because of the U.S. Constitution, you can wear your turban to work. And if they give you any grief, come back to the grand governor. We'll offer you some remedies for that. And they can't deny it. And if they do deny it, let us know, because we like them kind of problems. Islam? All right. It says, and then before I go on, the groups of people they go into, see, there was a period of time when our forefathers were not in law, right? Some of our forefathers, the ancient Canaanites, right? The ancient Moabites, but there was a period of time when they was out of law and the Most High was mad at them. Islam? When did the Most High forgive the Moabites and bring them back into the congregation of the righteous? Anybody know? At what point in the Bible? With the marriage of who? Boaz and Ruth. Islam. And that came from the sisters. Go ahead, Ruth. Islam. Right? So it says, and this was the period of time when our forefathers was out of pocket. It says, doing according to their abominations, even of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Ammonites, the Perizzites, Jebusites, and Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mixed themselves with the people of the lands, and the hand of the elders and the Levites have been first in this iniquity. Meaning, when the more got up here and demonstrated about the sheiks, when the prophet was hardest on the leaders, right? Because it doesn't take much to destroy the influence of good leadership. The people can only do what they're influenced by the leadership. If you don't believe me, look at the last 4 years with the 45th president, who wasn't demonstrating his 45, right? How were his constituents acting? Was it civilized? Oh, or did it, or that uncivilized behavior start at the top and trickle down? Because he could give a speech and people would, they call that dog whistling. You know that phrase? Dog whistling is like when a speaker is giving a speech, but he embeds in the speech a spirit of hatred, as an example, right? And people that's on that low frequency pick that up and go do that. Islam? Yeah. That's why we read the divine warning at the end of every meeting, so we don't send y'all out in a bad energy. Islam? All right? 3, it says, and this is Ezra, he said, and when I heard this thing, I tore my garments and my mantle. If you see like the grand sheiks and high holy day ceremony, sometimes we'll wear a cape, right? It looks like a cape, but it's not a cape, it's a mantle, okay? So he said, I tore my garments and my mantle and pulled my hair out of my head and my beard and sat down speechless. Then all those who were diligent concerning the word of Allah, the God of Israel, because of their current transgressions of the exiles, assembled before me, and I sat speechless until the 9th hour. 9 represents what? Completion. And at the 9th hour, I rose up from my sorrow, having torn my garments, and fell on my knees and spread out my hands in prayer before the Lord God, and said, oh my God, we are ashamed to lift up our faces to thee. Our God. Notice it says our God, not up. Worship. They weren't worship. The goal was to not worship other people's gods, but to worship our God. So a lot of times, our forefathers, when they did the salvation, Allah unity, if you look in Moorish documents from like the 40s, you'll see salvation, it'll say our God and unity. But then who is our God? Wow. But see, we have to address him by his proper name. If you were walking down the street and I said, woman, you gonna turn around and look at me? Oh, that joker, can't be talking to me, right? But if I say Sister Samantha, that's personal. You turn around, Islam. With the answer, Islam. So we have to know the personal name of God in order to address it. If you dial the wrong phone number, is the right person gonna answer? Okay. It says, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our great sins have reached to the very heavens. Now, this was thousands of years ago, but think about now. and the condition we're in, and the Negro problem. Since the days of our fathers, we have been found in great trespass to this day, because we have committed more sins, both we and our fathers and our kings and our priests. Therefore, we have been delivered to the sword, to the spoil, to captivity, and to confusion of face, and into the hands of kings of lands, and into the hands of our enemies, as it is this very day. That doesn't explain our condition of what happened to us, right? So there's a direct correlation between how we act and what we go through. Islam? Because as a holy people, you are set aside, so you can't do everything, right? Why prophets come to you and tell you, don't drink, don't smoke, don't curse. Take unto thyself a wife, one woman that you commit to, not 3, 4, 5 wives. That's not your law. There's ones that do that, but that ain't our law. Not as Moorish Americans. Islam? Take unto thyself a wife and obey the ordinance of Allah. What is an ordinance? A law. Specifically a decree, right? And a decree comes from a sovereign power, who is Allah. Islam? It says, and now for a little while, grace has been shown from the Lord our God to leave us a remnant and to give us a place in the Holy Land, in his holy land, that our God may lighten our eyes and grant us a little reviving in our bondage. For we are bondmen. What does the word bondmen mean? Slaves. B-O-N-D-M-E-N. Yet our God has not forsaken us in our bondage, but our God has granted mercy in the sight of the kings of Persia, and has cared for us today to set up the house of God and to repair its ruins and to give us a secure place in Judah and in Jerusalem. You find out the prophet's laws as, the European is helping me, why aren't you? See, the European in that, in our time and in our experience was at one time considered an enemy to our forefathers, right? But then why did they help Prophet Noble Ali do his work? And why did Prophet Noble Ali get more pushback from his own people? Islam? Because this is not new. This has happened in the ancient world as well. Islam? It says, and now our God, what shall we say after these things? For we have forsaken thy commandments, which thou hast commanded us by thy servants, the prophets, saying, the land which you go to possess is unclean, an unclean land, with the filthiness of the peoples of the lands, with their abominations, which have filled it from one end to another, and with their detestable works. I'll pause there because I don't want to belabor the point. But Prophet Ezra was telling our people, our forefathers, that they were out of law, right? And all these ones that have married these foreigners, right? He had them all gather, in the courtyard at the time of the prayer, when the prayer was over. He told them, he says, it has come down from Allah that all of you must divorce these ones that you have married. Them and them children that that came about from those unions, you got to gather them and send them away. Why? Because a house divided against itself cannot stand. And you can't have all them thoughts in one household. Islam? You can't have a husband that practices Christmas and a wife that's in the Moorish Science Temple of America, because how you gonna raise the children? And what are they gonna believe? Islam? I could tell you now, praise Allah, from being in a relationship with a wife that's in the Moorish Science Temple of America, it frees me up from a whole lot of stuff. Now I got a whole nother aspect of my mind that I can use because I don't have to fight frivolous stuff. Islam? And we do things together based on the laws that Allah said. Islam? You won't know the feeling until you got your wife in the temple, brothers or sisters, until you find a Moorish American man. Stop looking for Negroes and trying to civilize them. Get you a Mo. Islam? Get you a Moorish American, because at least he's starting off in the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam? So the conversation starts at a certain point. You ain't got to civilize a joke. You do. Get that ham out your mouth. Well, I like ham hocks. My mama ate them. My grandmama ate them. Ain't nothing wrong with pork. Gotta stick your butt out and scratch where it don't itch. Nothing wrong with pork. That's how we look. We like coons in this day and time. Islam? But I thought you were a nation of people. I thought you were a free people. If you free, you don't act like that. If you free, sisters, I got to find me a more. And if you can't find one in this temple, remember, this is a national organization. We can import you a husband. I'll call one of the Grand Sheiks and another step. Islam, we need you You send this mo down through Amazon. Put that mo in the box. We gonna get the Amazon Prime, put that mo in the box.
2 days.
2 days, how many? 2 days more? Even on Sunday. We'll get you a mo, but stop going finding them Negroes. Islam? Brothers, you too, y'all ain't know what y'all laughing for. Stop getting them Negroes trying to reform it, because first of all, you don't have the power yet. Y'all just got here. You know? You don't know how to wield Allah's power yet. So what you got to do, if you have a sister in your life, or if you have a brother in your life, right? They're struggling with the ham-hock issues. And that's a state of mind more so, right?
Yeah.
At least bring them to the Moorish Science Temple of America and let them hear the prophet.
Come on.
Because you don't have the power to reform them. Let Allah deal with them. Islam. Then after they hear Allah and after they hear the prophet and they still choose to be Negroes, you got a decision to make. You got a prophet Ezra call to make. See, Jesus said, I thought y'all loved Jesus. Jesus said, when you go to a city, right, and the people there are not receptive to the message that you come to bring them, you shake the dust off your heels and go the opposite way. Y'all like walking around with dusty shoes. That's the problem. Wondering why you're not happy. You ain't gonna find no happiness with a Negro. It's a problem. Islam? And worse is when we find that mentality settled in our children. Islam? So our duty here is to try to get that mess out of our children, to perform an exorcism of sorts and get them demons out of them. Because it's a demonic thought. When a child hear Allah and don't know how to respond to it. I've looked in the eyes of 3-year-olds and saw Satan. Don't tell me you haven't seen the same thing. You out here just like I am. Don't act like Cleveland Avenue is just that bad. Wherever you go in this day and time, you see Satan walking where? To and fro on the earth, trying to devour some. And ain't no age limitation on it because it's down to children. Islam? Now either y'all want to fix this thing or you want to keep complaining about it. Oh, the prophet talks about that too. We love to just complain about why our children are doing this, they're not doing that. Well, Islam, when you gonna fix it? When you gonna stop playing with it and apply the answers that are in this record? Because remember, he gives you the problem, then he gives you the solution. Right? And the only way to get our nation grow, we need whole families up in here. Whole families. If you get your grandmama up in here, we need that wisdom. Islam? We got Auntie Bay. Islam? Temple got an auntie. Islam? Y'all ain't met Mother Lestine, baby, but this temple has a mother.
We got an uncle too.
We got an uncle? Who the uncle? Oh, Islam. Uncle Jerome Sanders back. Islam. Islam. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Right? See, Allah, I missed the blessing. Thank you. See, that's what, get you a wife. You know how to find your blessings. She'll point out what you don't see. Islam? But you got to unify your homes first, right? Because the essence of a nation is the family. Ain't no building a nation and your family not right. You can't go home to hell every day, right? Because, in each one of your homes, you're supposed to have a temple. Did y'all know that? Do you see this setup? With the exception of the charter. This same setup you're supposed to have in your homes. Put your flags up. Islam, put your picture of the prophet up. Islam. Something happened, you can't make it to the temple that day you hold temple in your home. Ain't no excuse to not worship Allah. Islam. Because this is not the Moorish Science Temple of America. Moorish Science Temple of America is an abstract. The Moorish Science Temple of America is wherever the holy people are to enforce the holy and divine laws. That is the Moorish Science Temple of America. So you can have one in your home, but you can't have one in your home and you got a satanic child running around in your house. Y'all remember Gremlins? Y'all remember that movie Gremlin? They said, don't feed them after midnight. They mess around, spilt the water on my man, and all them demons start popping at him. Well, that's your home if you don't put the prophet on these babies. Islam? And you know what? As Grand Governor, I vow for this year that we're going to do more activities for the children. Right? Because I know the spirit of my mom, growing up a Baptist, my mom had me at Sunday school, afternoon service, evening service, Bible study on Wednesday, revival, Islam watch night service. And I've been putting there looking like, how much church do we need? And I get it, right? But we have to have a youth ministry where we do something for the children. Matter of fact, we let the youngest masterminds of them get together with the other youth and figure out and come to us and let us know what y'all want to do. All right? Whatever y'all want to do. If y'all want to Six Flags it up, whatever y'all want to do, and the temple will pay for it. Islam? Because this is your temple too. Right? And I'm going to say this before I close. My young people, whether you're looking in my eyes or not, I want this for your subconscious mind. There's going to be a period of time where somebody's going to challenge you on what you believe. Right? Somebody's going to ask you what you know. Right? You have to be able to respond, because if not, they're going to look at you like, we can run over this person. They don't even know who they are. Islam? You're going to be in a situation where everybody around you has a flag. Right? So you have to ask yourself, well, what is your flag? So you have the answer now to say, well, I don't know much about it, but I've seen this flag right here before. It's a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I was told that was my flag. I might have to do a little bit more studying, but I got a flag that I know about. Islam? So it was a period of time when your parents didn't know they had a flag. Islam? All right? We got to, name some food. We got chefs in the room. I hope we got some good cooks in the room. Prophet birthright celebration. We need to eat after we demonstrate. But we need to name the dishes. Right? Put Moorish names on those dishes, and guess what you just did? You just nationalized the dish. Right? What the Puerto Ricans talk about, arroz con pollo. It sound fly, don't it? Ain't nothing but rice and chicken. In Spanish. Arroz con pollo. Oh, give me some arroz con pollo, rice and chicken. Islam. Islam? We can get some Ali burgers and some Islam. We can get a Marcus Garvey salad. Islam? Name it and nationalize it, right? Moors love to dance, right? Young people love to make up their own dances. Put a name on it, right? But name it something from your culture, and that becomes ours. And then we'll teach it to the members, and we do it as a group, and that becomes our national dance. Islam? See, rebuilding the culture ain't hard because the prophet gave you the foundation. Islam? And more, if we don't pass it to our children, it dies out after us. Right? So we have to, stop the disunity, and we have to get things back to the point where we're unified amongst ourselves. And if it's something you don't understand, Prophet Jesus said, ask and it should be given unto you. Right? Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door will be open. Islam? So all you have to do is ask. All right? And with that, I'll lower the meeting. Islam? Islam? Islam. Divine warning by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speech while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement, founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. By order of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam? 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 Islam. Islam. All praise are due to Allah and the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. More in closing, I'd like to say, for all new members that were taken in within the past month, please raise your hand. Okay? We need a photograph of you before you leave, before you go, and that will go on your Moorish National Registry form. All right? That will be issued from Home Office. For those of the president that do not know, last census, when they took the census on a federal level, the Moors dropped the ball. Okay? Because the Moors were supposed to be unified enough to be able to have our nationality and our race added to the census. When we contacted the Office of Management and Budget, they said that all we need was on record and file a roster of 10,000 Moorish Americans, right? It's not a lot of Moorish Americans. 10,000 Moorish Americans, and with that, they will add Moorish American to the next census, which is in 9 more years. Islam? Praise Allah, praise Allah, all right? Islam, but see, here's what happens, here's the trick. Everything's computer database nowadays, right? So what happens is, when they run it through, it's still gonna register black.
Or other.
It's still gonna register black.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because the database it'll only acknowledge pre-registered things.
Right.
So if that is not already written into their collective database, then it goes to a default. And in our case, no matter what, it goes to black. Yeah. So the work that we have to do, and it was a lot of debating on the more side. Sheiks went to war over this one. It was because I'm not gonna put that on you. I ain't gonna put that on you. But the reality is that in this body here, all members of Grand Temple number 19 will be registered in our home office where the database is kept, and it'll have those. Anybody wants to know what it looks like, I have mine in my bag. I can show you. But those will be coming back soon. But we need there's a picture that goes on and everything.
That's awesome.
Islam, praise Allah, but this is the national work, right? We don't like it because that's the linear side of our brain. We like being holistic and spirit, which is beautiful, right? It's beautiful, but you got 2 halves to your brain, so But
Earthly salvation?
it's a part of the earthly salvation. Islam coming through our divine, right? Because they're linked. All right. That was that. And was there any more? Divine Love Day is coming up. We don't do Valentine's Day, as y'all know. So the 3rd week of February, we do our Divine Love Day. And yes, I'll bring up our Grand Secretary, Sister T. Ranesi-El. Islam, Moors? What about this? Islam, you have the floor.
Islam, beloved.
What about?
Okay. As the Sheikh had said, we do not celebrate Divine Love Day.
Yeah. Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. We celebrate Divine Love Day. And what it is everyone gets a chance to pick out a name from the bowl, and you can go out and buy them a gift for up to $20. And then on Divine Love Day, we bring you up individually and you present your gift of love to that person that you picked out of the bowl. And then there's food afterwards, and we just love on each other.
Islam.
Okay, so in the next couple of weeks, whomever you get, the chance to pick out their name, try to get to know them. So then, when you go pick out their gift, that gift will be picked out of something that they may have said that they like, maybe their favorite color, favorite music, genre of music. It could be a stuffed animal. It could be anything. You just gotta pick out a gift that depicts who they are, and then you can say why you picked that gift for them. Okay.
Islam. So what we'll do after, we'll do it, for the sake of time, we'll do it after the meeting. Everyone go to the bowl and pick your name. Islam? Okay.
One more question.
Yes.
And for those that are children under 18, okay, I know I didn't tell you to put your ages on here. So if you need their ages, give me a call, and I'll give you the age of that particular child, because everyone's name is inside of the bowl. Okay? Islam, I greet you in peace.
Islam, Moors. So praise Allah for that, and we put that custom in place because love is very much needed in our community. Islam? All right? Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, or statements? Islam, what?
Islam having already risen. To ask the Quran that the Prophet brought to us, why is it with a K instead of a Q?
Okay. So the English language has went through several changes as time went on. And the era that the Prophet was on the manifest, there were many things that were spelled differently. Muslim was spelled with an O, Muslim. Hindu was spelled with 2 O's, Hindoo, right? So it's just a dated form of English. Yeah, that was for its time. There's another research aspect to that, but I don't want to cause confusion right now, so we'll get into that later. All right? Anyone else? All is well? Everyone please rise. Face the east, which is right ahead of us. Hold your feet at a 45-degree angle. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Invoke the sacred presence of 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. Please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam Moors, praise Allah. Islam Moors.